Night my husband told me he'd be in Dallas for a work conference, I made his favorite dinner anyway. I don't know why I did that. Some leftover reflex from 8 years of marriage, maybe. Chicken marsala, the kind that takes 40 minutes and dirties every pan in the kitchen. Our daughter, Zoe, sat at the counter doing homework and asked why I was cooking so much for just the two of us. I told her it was good to have leftovers. She was 12 and already smarter than I gave her credit for. She looked at the empty chair at the head of the table and didn't say anything else. My name is Claire. I'm 31 years old. I'm an occupational therapist at a pediatric clinic outside of Portland, Oregon. I drive a Subaru with a cracked bumper I keep meaning to fix. I take Zoe to soccer on Saturdays and pack her lunch on Thursdays because Thursdays are the days the school cafeteria serves something she calls mystery meat. I am, by most measures, a completely ordinary person, and for about 4 months I was completely blind. My husband. I'll call him my husband because that's what he still was at the time, not because I have any warmth left for the title. His name is Derek. Derek sold commercial real estate. He was good at it. That meant travel. Portland to Seattle, Portland to San Francisco, Portland to wherever the deal was. I had accepted that a long time ago. Conference calls at 10 p.m, late flights home, a calendar full of cities I'd never seen. The Dallas trip was supposed to be 5 days. A development conference, he said. Lots of networking, he said. He'd be hard to reach. He was in Dallas from Tuesday to Saturday, according to the itinerary he left on the counter. Except he wasn't. I found out because of a woman named Faye. Faye is my best friend from college. She lives in Austin now, which is about 3 hours from Dallas, and she happened to be driving up for her cousin's baby shower that same week. She texted me from a hotel lobby on Thursday evening. Hey, random question. Does Derek have a twin? I stared at that text for a long time. Why? I typed back. Because I'm pretty sure I just saw him in the lobby of the Marriott Uptown with a woman. With a woman. But maybe I'm wrong. Are you here? I wasn't there. I was at home in Portland making Zoe's lunch for Friday and watching a show I didn't care about. My thumbs hovered over my phone for a long moment. Can you get a photo? I asked. She sent me 3. I sat down on the kitchen floor. I don't remember deciding to sit down. I just remember the cold tile through my jeans and the sound of the TV in the other room and looking at a picture of my husband with his hand on the lower back of a woman I had never seen before. They were standing close. Not in the way you stand close to a colleague. In the way you stand close to someone whose every habit you already know. I didn't cry. I remember noticing that. I thought I would, but I didn't. I just sat there on the tile for a very long time. Faye kept texting. Claire, are you okay? Should I go talk to him? Do you want me to follow them? Clara. I told her not to do anything. I told her, thank you. I told her I needed to think. Then I closed the texting app and opened the internet and searched how to hire a private investigator in Portland, Oregon. It took me 2 days to make the call. Those 2 days, I was normal. I cooked dinner. I helped Zoe with a social studies project about the Oregon Trail, which felt cosmically ironic. I talked to Derek on the phone twice, once Wednesday night, once Thursday afternoon. He sounded fine. He asked how Zoe was doing. He said he missed us. I said we missed him too, and I watched my own reflection in the kitchen window while I said it and thought, who are you right now? The PI's name was Greg. He was 60-something, retired law enforcement, ran a 2-person operation out of a strip mall in Beaverton. He was the least dramatic person I had ever met, and that was exactly what I needed. No theatrics, just facts. I told him Derek was supposed to be in Dallas through Saturday. I gave him Derek's cell number, the hotel name Faye had seen, the name of the conference, which I had by then looked up and confirmed was real, just not something Derek was actually registered for. Greg said he'd make some calls and have eyes on the situation within 24 hours. He called me back in A-Team. Your husband checked out of the Dallas Marriott this morning, Greg said. He took a rideshare to a residential address in the Lakewood neighborhood. He's been there since 11 a.m. A pause. The address is associated with a woman named, he gave me a name. She's 34. She moved to Dallas about 7 months ago from Portland. 7 months ago from Portland. Greg, I said slowly, did she used to live here? Do you know what neighborhood? He checked. She had rented an apartment in northwest Portland, 4 blocks from our house. I put the phone down on the counter and stood in my kitchen and looked at the chicken masala leftovers in the Tupperware container in the refrigerator and thought about the fact that for 7 months, possibly longer, a woman had been living 4 blocks away from me and my daughter, and she had been with my husband, and I had made that man dinner every Thursday night and packed his suits when he travelled and believed every single word. I need more, I told Greg when I picked the phone back up. I need documentation, whatever you can get. I know, he said. That's why I'm still on it. He sent me the full report on a Sunday. I waited until Zoe left for her friend Maddie's house before I opened it. I should have waited longer. Not because the information was worse than I expected, it was about what I expected, which was bad enough. But because once you open something like that, you can't close it again. The pages sat on my kitchen table and they were just paper. Just photographs and dates and a timeline going back 11 months, but they felt like a detonation. 11 months. Zoe had been 11 years old when this started. We had celebrated our 8th anniversary when this started. I had been growing a garden in the backyard, tomatoes, basil, the little pepper plants I was so proud of, when this started. There was a photograph of them at a restaurant, one of her apartment building, one of Derek's car in her parking lot at 6 in the morning. And near the end of the report, almost an aside, Greg had noted, subject appears to be in the late stages of pregnancy. I read that line 3 times. Then I closed the folder and I called my sister. My sister Brooke is 4 years older than me and has always been the practical one. When our dad got sick, she was the one who organised the medical binders and called the insurance company and made sure the bills got paid. When I was falling apart in my college apartment after a bad breakup, she drove 3 hours and brought me a sandwich and a list of things to do first. She is the person I call when I need someone to help me think. I told her everything. The photos from Faye, the PI report, the pregnancy. She didn't say much while I talked. When I was done, she was quiet for a moment, and then she said, "Okay, have you called a lawyer yet?" I hadn't. "Call a lawyer tomorrow morning," she said. "First thing, do not tell Derek anything. Do not move anything. Don't change anything. Just act normal until you've talked to a lawyer." "Brooke, she's pregnant." "I know." Her voice was steady. "I know. And we're going to deal with that. But right now, the most important thing is that you protect yourself and Zoe, okay? One step. Lawyer, tomorrow morning." I nodded even though she couldn't see me. "Okay. You did nothing wrong," she said. "I need you to hear that." "You did nothing wrong," she said. "I need you to hear that. You did nothing wrong." I didn't believe her yet, but I filed it away. The lawyer's name was Sandra Park, a partner at a family law firm in downtown Portland. She had a glass-walled office and a shelf of succulents and a way of delivering hard information in a completely level voice that I found simultaneously terrifying and deeply reassuring. I brought the PI report. I brought 3 months of bank statements I had pulled that morning. I brought screenshots of every wire transfer I could find. Sandra looked through everything without expression. Then she looked up at me. "You have a joint checking account, a joint savings, and you're both listed on the mortgage," she said. "Yes. And you work full-time." "Yes. My income covers most of the household expenses. Derek's income goes into savings and his business account." She nodded slowly. "His business account, is that joint?" "No. His name only." "Okay." She made a note. "Tell me about the savings. How much are we talking about?" I told her. She wrote the number down without reacting, which I respected. "Here's what I want you to understand," Sandra said. "Oregon is an equitable distribution state. That does not mean 50-50. It means the court decides what's fair based on contributions, duration of marriage, and circumstances. The length of this affair, the financial deception involved, and especially," she tapped the PI report, "any evidence that marital funds were used to support the other relationship. All of that matters." "He was sending her money," I said. "I found transfers, not huge amounts, but regular. $200-300 every few weeks." Sandra's expression didn't change, but something sharpened in her eyes. "Do you have documentation of those?" I handed her the screenshots. "Good," she said. "That's very good. We spent 2 hours in that office." When I left, I had a retainer agreement, a list of accounts to document, and very clear instructions. Do not alert Derek, do not move money, do not change any passwords or accounts yet. Let Sandra's office send the process server. Let the process unfold the right way. She also said something I've thought about many times since. You have the advantage right now, she said. He doesn't know you know. Use that time to get everything organized. Once he's served, things will move fast. The advantage disappears. So be ready. I drove home and sat in the driveway for a while. Then I went inside and helped Zoe with her homework and made us grilled cheese for dinner and gave absolutely no indication that anything in our lives was about to change completely. I was ready to be ready. It took 3 more weeks. Those 3 weeks were the strangest of my life. Derek came home from Dallas and I hugged him at the door and asked about his trip and listened to him lie to my face about a conference I knew he was never at. I watched him play catch with Zoe in the backyard and I thought about the other woman's apartment and about regular transfers and about 11 months and I just kept breathing. I moved some things without technically moving them. I took photos of every document in our file cabinet. Mortgage statements, retirement account summaries, the deed to the car, life insurance. I scanned them and emailed them to Sandra's office and to a private folder in a Gmail account Derek didn't know about. I wrote down every account number I had ever seen on any piece of mail. I didn't sleep much. I functioned. Brooke called me every other day. How are you doing? She'd say. And I'd say, standing. And she'd say, that's enough. Zoe noticed something. I could tell. She's sharp, always has been. She got that from my side, I think. Not that I'm biased. She started watching Derek in a way she hadn't before, quiet observations. Once, when Derek was on his phone at the dinner table, she said very calmly, "Who were you texting, Dad?" And he said, "Just work stuff, bug." And she looked at me across the table with those careful eyes, and I gave her the smallest nod that I hoped communicated, "I know, you're not imagining it. We're okay." I don't know if she understood that, but she stopped asking Derek questions and started staying closer to me. On a Thursday evening in March, Derek said he had to fly to Seattle on Friday for a site visit. Back by Sunday, I called Sandra. She said, "We're ready when you are." I said, "Do it." He was served at the hotel in Seattle on Saturday morning. I know because he called me approximately 4 minutes after it happened. I was at Zoe's soccer game, standing on the sideline with a cup of coffee, watching her defend a corner kick, when my phone rang. I let it ring. He called 3 more times in the next hour. I let all of them go. Zoe scored a goal in the second half, and I cheered louder than I had in years. And afterward, we went to get waffles at her favourite place on Burnside, and I sat across from her with maple syrup on my sleeve and thought about how every Saturday could be like this. Uncomplicated, mine, hers. When I finally listened to the voicemails, Derek's voice had cycled through anger, confusion, and something that sounded almost like panic. The last message was quiet. "Claire, I think we need to talk." I texted Sandra, "He's been served. He's trying to reach me." She texted back, "Do not respond directly." Everything goes through me now. That was one of the better texts I have ever received. The next few months were not easy. I want to be honest about that. Divorce is administrative and emotional at the same time, which is an exhausting combination. There were mornings I dropped Zoe at school and then sat in the parking lot and cried for 10 minutes before driving to work. There were evenings I was so tired I ate cereal for dinner and felt grateful that Zoe was old enough to think cereal for dinner was fun. There were phone calls with Sandra that left me feeling competent and informed, and calls with my mother that left me feeling like I was 12 again, which was not her fault. She was trying to help. Derek retained a lawyer. His name was Paul something, and according to Sandra, he was fine, but not exceptional. Derek's initial position was that the affair was a personal matter, separate from the marital estate, which Sandra described to me with a very neutral face, and which made me want to throw something. Sandra countered with the financial documentation, every transfer, every hotel receipt she'd subpoenaed, a credit card charge at a furniture store in Dallas 2 months before the woman moved into her new apartment. She built a picture of sustained financial diversion from the marital estate, and she laid it out methodically, and Derek's personal matter argument got significantly quieter. The house was our biggest asset. We had bought it 6 years ago and the equity had grown considerably. Portland real estate does that to you, for better or worse. Sandra argued I should get the house outright or a buyout at current market value, citing my primary role in Zoe's care and the documented financial misconduct. Derek's lawyer pushed back. There were several rounds of negotiation that I wasn't present for, which was actually the right call because I would not have been calm. What we reached after 4 months, I kept the house. Derek received a reduced share of the joint savings to offset his equity in the property. I received the larger portion of our retirement accounts in recognition of the financial transfer Sandra had documented. Derek was required to pay child support and carry Zoe on his health insurance. He got alternate weekends with Zoe. The first weekend she was supposed to go to his new apartment in the Pearl District. She told me she didn't want to go. She was sitting on the bathroom counter watching me get ready for work, the way she'd done since she was little, and she said it very simply. "Mom, I don't want to go to Dad's." I turned off the hairdryer. "Can you tell me why?" She thought about it. "It doesn't feel like it's for us. It feels like it's for him. Like he needs us to come so he can feel better about what he did. And I don't want to make him feel better about what he did." I had to press my lips together for a moment so I wouldn't cry in front of her. "You don't have to make him feel better," I said. "You're allowed to feel however you feel, but the visits are part of the agreement, and I think it's worth giving it a few tries before we decide anything. Does that feel okay?" She considered this with the solemn seriousness of a 12-year-old who knows she's being treated like a person. "Fine," she said, "but I'm bringing my own snacks." I laughed out loud. Genuinely, fully, the first real laugh I could remember in months. "Deal," I said. "What I know now that I didn't know a year ago, I know that you can love someone for 8 years and still not see all the rooms in them. Not because you're foolish or naive, but because people can build walls you don't know to look for, and that is a failure of their character, not your attention. I know that the 3 weeks I spent gathering evidence and staying quiet and doing nothing visible were the most important 3 weeks of the whole process. Sandra told me later that clients who act on emotion first, who confront, who move money, who give away the game, end up in much messier situations. The hardest thing I ever did was say nothing. I know that having Brooke and Faye and Sandra in my corner changed everything. Not because I couldn't have survived alone, but because I didn't have to, and that distinction matters. I know that Zoe is going to be okay. I don't know exactly what she'll carry with her from this year. That's not something I get to decide for her. But I watch her at soccer. I watch her laugh at dinner. I watch her call her dad twice a month, with a kind of careful arm's-length politeness that she built herself and that I have not discouraged, and I think she is building her own version of this. She is learning what she's made of. I think she's made of quite a lot. The garden is coming back. I planted tomatoes again this spring. The same heirloom variety I've been growing since before everything fell apart. One afternoon, Zoe came out and crouched down next to me in the dirt and started pulling weeds without being asked, and we stayed out there for almost an hour without saying much, and the sun went down slowly, the way it does in Oregon in late spring, everything golden and unhurried. "Mom," she said at some point. "Yeah?" She didn't say anything for a second, just kept pulling weeds. "I think we're okay." I looked at her. "My serious, sharp cereal for dinner, bring my own snacks kid. My person." "Yeah," I said. "I think we are." There's a version of the story where I find out differently, where I confront Derek at the door when he gets home from Dallas, where I scream and throw things and he talks his way out of it, or maybe he doesn't. But either way, I come out of it with nothing documented, nothing organized, nothing in order. I thought about that version a lot. I almost lived it. What stopped me was the 48 hours I spent doing nothing visible, just thinking, just deciding. I've never been the type to wait. Brooke would tell you that. Faye would tell you that. My mom would probably lead with it. But something in me understood that this particular moment required a kind of intelligence I hadn't needed before. Not book smarts, not professional competence. The kind that asks, what do I actually need, and what's the fastest way to lose it? I chose to be quiet, and that choice changed everything that came after. I think about what Derek must have assumed. That I would fall apart. That emotion would take the wheel. That the woman he'd watched make dinner and drive carpools and tend a garden for 8 years wasn't also someone who could spend 3 weeks building a legal case while handing him his coffee in the morning. He underestimated me, and I don't say that with bitterness anymore. I say it like a fact, the way you'd note that it rained on a Tuesday. He made a calculation and it was wrong. But I don't want to make this only about him, because he's the smallest part of what I learned. What I learned is that your character shows up in the moments when no one's watching you be good. Nobody saw those 3 weeks. Nobody knew I was photographing bank statements at midnight, or driving to Sandra's office on my lunch break, or crying in a parking lot for 10 minutes, and then walking into work and doing my job. There was no audience for any of it. I did it anyway. I think that's what integrity actually is. Not the version you perform, but the version that operates when you're alone and scared, and the easier thing is right there in front of you. I learned that being smart about a hard thing is not the same as being cold. People sometimes act like those are in conflict. Like if you're strategic, you must not really be hurting. I was hurting every single day. And I was also thinking clearly, gathering information, making decisions. Both were true at once. I'd tell anyone going through something like this, your grief and your clarity can coexist. You don't have to choose. And Zoe, my kid, who pulled weeds next to me and said, "I think we're okay," like she was reporting a small, certain fact. She's going to be fine. I believe that. Not because nothing bad happened to her. Something bad did happen to her and she knows it, and I won't pretend otherwise. But because she watched what happens when a person refuses to collapse. When someone gets knocked sideways and chooses to get organized instead of getting even. To build instead of burn. She saw that. It's in her now whether she knows it or not. That, I think, is the only inheritance worth leaving.